Good evening, Miss Stone. I just want to say, it's my last reading journal conference, and I mean, I feel like as I should have done it in person, but I feel like I can express myself a little more in terms of what I'm trying to get across. And throughout the year, I just want to say thank you. You've challenged me throughout to think differently, and I think that's the main concept of my reading journal conference today. It was very hard to understand what art and what literature really means, and I had to really look up the actual definition of what art and literature was. And because as it says, art is it's an expression of creative skills and in a visual. So when I'm thinking of art, it's like something that pleases the eye, whereas or pleases the mind. And when I think of literature, literature refers to works that can be taken in different ways or different interpretations. Whereas when art is being used, you have that singular manner where they're saying this is what it is and this is why I did it so I can get it across. And another thing is art. It captures a specific moment, whereas literature can capture spans of time. And Nabokov really expresses what art and literature is in everything he's doing. And when you ask like what is a major writer, I had to think. I didn't know really what a major writer was, and I had to put it together. And I think of it as a teacher, a storyteller, and an enchanter. To me, when a writer writes, they want to be the enchanter. They want they want it to they want that connection with each other. They want that feeling of excitement, and they want the strong belief that what they're writing is going to catch the minds of others that are reading it. And when you're thinking of a teacher, I mean, I think of you as Miss Stone as someone who is full of information, full of knowledge, full of understanding of various concepts when it comes to reading. And when you think of a major writer, you think of a teacher where it's trying to list facts for only the moral education, the basics of it, whereas the enchanter is looking for all types of like magic in the genius, study of the style, the imagery, and the different patterns of novels and poems. And I think throughout the whole year, that's something that you've tried to get us across. And to kind of read as one of my first readings was Catcher in the Rye. I wanted to start off really with Macbeth because I was reading through my reflections, and it kind of looked like I was pretty strong in Catcher in the Rye, and then I came to Macbeth, and it kind of was like I think I'm reading too one dimensionally, and I was just trying to be the teacher, whereas and I was just looking for one piece of something, and in my reflection I had put I don't know, but I just felt very evil reading this. The idea of slaying on people just to benefit others, I didn't quite enjoy that. The passage I paraphrased was when Macbeth wanted to plot the murder of Banquo. In my eyes, I saw this as the inevitable outcome Macbeth was going to face. I almost thought in this passage he was planning it, but I didn't think he was actually going to do it. In comparison to Hamlet, then in many ways it was a lot different. I feel like the hero was Hamlet and Macbeth was something shy of the devil. I had to go back to prose and not read with emotion to further understand this passage. When I say that, I know that's a quarter two, quarter one type thing is trying to not read emotionally and not get attached. But religion has always been so strong for me, whereas when I see works of the devil, it strikes me and it gives me that feeling where no matter in all my years of learning, where if it doesn't fit to my religious belief, I'm gonna think another way. And one day when I can come out of that, it's gonna be a great day. And right here, as I'm reading this, I feel is I'm not fully getting it. And I know that this is we're so late into it, but this was very actually very. It was a lot easier than Hamlet, but I still feel like I was barely scratching the surface. And but then when I'm reading Catcher in the Rye, I have my my reflection, and I think it was pretty good. And it says, at this point, my strength in reading is definitely picking up on patterns and symbols while I read. It seems to be easy for me to identify which images um, pop up through a novel. With this being said, the struggle I am having is connecting the symbol or pattern I identify to a deeper meaning. It typically takes me a few reads or asking for clarification for me to figure out what the author means when bringing up certain images. See, when I'm thinking of the various the various things that go on, I still see the surface. I don't really know. I didn't know how to fully get into what it's really trying to say. And in the next text, I'm going to be more mindful of analyzing the symbols and patterns, since that's what I'm struggling with. It only makes sense to take this step slower than the rest. If I do this, then I will have a clearer understanding of the image that the author is projecting to the reader. I misread definitely when I was reading for plot. I was a typical reader and immediately disliked Holden. Therefore, I'm confident that I missed details about him. On the other hand, I focused on the order of the book. The way that each event occurred really took a hold on Holden. So I watched closely for each occurrence that happened to him to pick up on the theme. And this is the part two of my reflection. When reading, I cared more about the way Holden carried himself. I now understand that he had to be this way in order for the author to get his point across, but it still irritated me. Holden had no willpower to fight or better himself. Instead, he just moped about change. I disregarded how Holden would blame others for his own problems because they were his own fault. I knew that Holden was responsible for himself, so I was able to disregard this, and I just put him at fault for most problems he had. And as I see that, I've I was getting better at not really becoming attached. And as we had our next topic, I used my choice was my poem, my sonnet, and Love Is Not All. And this one taught me how to really get down and deep and under and really looking for meanings of the different types of literature. And this is and breaking this down more as just a poem. I'm looking at the art and the literature aspects of it, and I'm able to grasp a better understanding. And I was able to see I was able to find the sense that, like, our speaker considers it a new line point of view towards love and concludes that she would not surrender her experiences with love even if it would be physically beneficial to do so. And that was a saying is, yet many a man is making friends with death, even as I speak, for the lack of love alone. And for the octave, I was able to find the octave. That was my best part. And our speaker is introduced as being a skeptical towards love and its apparent lack of physical benefits. And I was able to really deep down and get under to the concept of love is juxtaposed with various physical necessities rather than emotional factors. It quickly becomes apparent that love is depicted as physically useless. And I think that was, to me, was one of my best pieces of breaking down and really understanding the different types of it. And that's literally is one of the best things that I've done. Was that whole poem time was I was able to really get the better understanding of what I was trying to pull out of a various reading. And looking at Belinda, I felt all right about Belinda, but in my reflection I was able to see the mistakes and things that I've done. As of right now, my strength in reading is picking up on the author's subclaims to form a good theme for what I am reading. It is easy for me to decipher how an author composes his piece, breaking it down into subclaims and support for those subclaims that in all end help support the main claim. On the other hand, the struggle I'm having is paying attention the entire time throughout longer pieces. Although this essay wasn't even that long, I caught myself zoning out for a few times. I was still able to understand the piece fairly easily in the end, but then I was able to see, like, in the next text, I'm going to be more mindful of saying staying focused on every word. This will help me pick up the details that maybe I wouldn't have picked up on before. Picking up on details will give me a greater insight on what the author is trying to say. When reading, I cared most about how a meaning of a poem shouldn't be formed of too many assumptions. I choose to disregard the meaningless info like ancient poetry references. And I think that's when I kind of grew my understanding of not getting too attached and trying to find what it's really trying to say. And throughout all my pieces, I think to find what is art and what is literature, when I think of what is literature, it has varied interpretations, and a poem can be taken in different ways, whether it's really about love or it's about hate. It's how that reader pulls that from it. And I think I remember that one exercise you did when you put all the little separate pieces of the poem, and we had to analyze it, and we had to go around, and it taught me not to just read it and then get my assumption. It took me down line by line by line to break it down and really understand what it's trying to say. And in my mind, I had a different interpretation than what you had, and I think that is one of the great things. And literature in a whole is to me, I think everything Shakespeare has done is a piece of art, is a work of art. He's great, and especially with Macbeth and how he establishes the tragic hero idea of it is once you do something bad, you seal your faith from the beginning, and there's really no coming back from it. And I think that I have a lot more time to come, and as I get better, I know I'm going to become a better reader throughout the time of my college years. I just really want to say thank you again for everything you've done. I know that this second semester to me is this time period right now I'm facing with a couple problems with family and my mom, but that's, to me, it's keeping my faith and staying positive through everything I'm doing, and I see that you have that kind of faith, and you walk in the faith, so you kind of lead me and I follow you, and I just want to say thank you again. This is off the reading conference. I just really want to say thank you. I really appreciate everything you've done and teaching me how to think a different type of way. So thank you, Miss Stone, and good night.